What's that? Yeah. There you go.
Evening. This is the Community Redevelopment Agency meeting of October 28th, 2014. It's 6 p.m. Please rise for the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Heavenly Father, we give our sincere thanks for this opportunity to meet together. May we listen to our citizens and one another with the purpose of bettering ourselves and our city. May we humbly accept the responsibilities assigned to us while on this board. May we carry out these responsibilities with thy help and to the best of our capabilities. May no one say that we have not considered those about us in every decision. And thus we ask to let us grow as citizens and leaders in spirit and ability. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Parham, roll call.
Chair Weller.
Here.
Vice Chair Barnes is absent. Member Bass, also absent. Member Gessler.
Present.
Member Jameson.
Here.
Member Newcomb.
Present.
And Member Williams.
Present.
Thank you. We are here tonight to interview a remaining candidate for the position of Executive Director, and then to rank the applicants, and then to consider the authorizing our attorney to draft a contract with that individual. However, in light of the fact that we have one or two board members at this point that are not here, we had two board members that were not, or three board members that were not here at the last meeting. What I'm going to suggest is that we go through with the interview, but then we give an opportunity for those that either missed the last interview process or this interview process to go back and listen to the minutes of the meeting or the audio of the meeting, so that they have the full knowledge of all the questions that were asked and the responses by the applicants, so that everyone is judging the applicants on the same information. So if that sounds okay with everyone.
Yeah, matter of fact, I went and watched. I was the one and I went and watched the video today. So I think that's a sound decision to give everybody. That way, everybody's on an even plane.
Solid. Okay. Everybody
I would
okay
agree.
with that? Mm-hmm. All right.
Are we
Member Gestern?
Yeah, thank you. Are you going to call another CRA meeting before the election or after the election? So in reviewing everything, their members will be present or not present, or does it not matter?
Well, what I was thinking of is to give the individuals through this week to listen to the audio portion of it, and then to turn their ranking in to Ms. Parham on Monday, if that makes sense, where she'll have, then she can rank them, she can notify the board. Everything's public, so at that point, so she can notify the board by email who ends up, how the ranks go. And I think at this meeting we can say to to Ms. Parham, I guess, based upon the rankings, authorize her to let the attorneys know so they can start drawing up a contract. Now, even though the election is Tuesday, everyone, I guess, is really on board on this board, still in existence till the swearing in, which will be the 20th. Is that correct? So we could have a meeting between then and the 20th just to finalize this with the board as it currently is, because I think that would be, if we have different members on the board, I don't think that's fair. We should go ahead and finalize this with this current board.
I think that's a good idea, and I also believe that in the past, even after an election, there have been regular commission meetings before the meeting of the swearing in or the verification of the vote, so that's not unusual.
Right. I would like to bring up that one thing that I was talking to our finance director about this issue of a contractual employee or an employee that's of the city that is under a contract. And there seems to be that what we can do, and I was provided some information here, that we could go ahead and hire the individual as an employee of the city under an employment agreement, just much so like we have done with the city manager and the city clerk. And I'm just going to read to you something here that says, employment agreements and contracts are for a specified period, and the terms of an employment contract may compensate the contract employee at a rate different to the company's regular employees. They also contain a termination clause, which protects a contract employee from the employer exercising its rights under the employment at will doctrine. In most instances, termination clauses require written notification of ending the employment agreement. The tasks for which a contract employee is hired to perform may be just like any other regular employee, or they may be for a specific task. So evidently, from what the finance director, and evidently she's talked to our board attorney as well on this, that we can make a distinction rather than have an agreement with a contracted individual, I guess you'd say. We would have, this person would be hired as a city employee, but under contract, just like we do. So that kind of takes care, I think, of some of our problems. I'm sorry, remember?
I agree with you. What site did she get that information from? You know?
smallbusiness.chron.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, member
Is
Gestern.
that from the finance director, or is
Yes,
that the
finance director. And she says she has talked to our board attorney about this as well.
So we don't have anything from our attorney verifying that, because it's actually her statement that actually brought it to our attention, the protocol and so forth.
Right.
Can we get her to acknowledge that as well?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that at all.
I think that's important. Is she going to be here tonight?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
I'll contact her and ask her to send something out to us
I think
on that.
that's important.
Okay. So that would take care of, like I said, some of the concerns that we've had on that. So, okay.
Thank you.
With that in mind, we will go forward with the interview with our final applicant, which is Emma Torella. Ms. Torella, please come forward. And when you come up, turn the mic on by pressing the button there. And before you start, just so that you know, it's on. The mic's not lighting up.
The red lights?
Her red lights. Maybe she's. There we go. Every board member will be asking you two questions, the same question that we asked the previous candidates. Obviously, we had two individuals here and another one that was not at the last meeting, so they'll ask two questions as well, and I would suggest to them that they could reach out to the other candidates and ask them those two questions as well. If they well, I'm sorry, you listened to the audio, so
Right.
then you can hear what it has to say. And this is a public meeting, so the candidates, although there are no other I think there's one other candidate here, they have a right to sit in on the meeting to hear what's being said. And then after the questions, we'll give you a chance to say anything else you would like, which is what we did with the other candidates.
Okay.
So with that, Member Newcomb?
Let me go first. We were taking each other's questions last time. One of my questions that I asked the other candidates was, as a CRA manager, how would you promote the increased knowledge of what the CRA is and how it benefits the community of homeowners as well as the business owners that are in the historic district?
I would say that by promoting, redeveloping the historical district, it brings new growth to the community, it brings new beauty to the community, new opportunity. It keeps the culture intact with the community. What promotions would I actually do?
How would you let them know about the CRA? Because a lot of the business owners and the homeowners at large in the historical district didn't even realize that we existed and that we had grants available.
There's a couple different ways I do contact this. I either do direct days, but that's what gets costed. And direct contact if it was, if it called for it.
Okay.
Walking in person.
Okay, thank you.
Member Gestrin?
How do you motivate yourself personally to do a good job? What do you do?
I love developing business. I love growth, and I love watching things happen and change. So I don't know, it's just a passion of mine.
Kind of like the results, or you like to see results?
Just the challenge of improving things and the challenge of making things more affordable and offering more benefits and scrutinizing things and improving them for everybody involved.
Thank you.
And since the two of you were not here, I'm going to go ahead and ask my question so you know, well, we have to say don't interfere with the questions we've already asked. What do you see as the most important issue or issues to be tackled as a CRA executive director?
Probably number one is cost, analyzing the cost and doing it as affordable as possible, but mainly to focus on projects that would have a direct impact on the community.
All right. Member Jameson?
You'll often hear with politicians and executives and so forth, their 100-day report. So what I would like to know, 100 days from when you're hired, what are you going to be telling us happened in those 100 days?
I guess it would depend on the project at hand, but I would probably steps that have been taken in regards to whatever project is on the table, as far as cost, as far as initiatives, as far as research, and as far as progression.
I guess I was looking more specific, and I guess it was just sort of very specifically as outlining, somewhat going in conjunction with what Ms. Newcomb said, is what do you see happening in the first 100 days? Specifically, not generically, but within the first 100 days, what do you see happening? You're going to come back and you're going to give us a report. This is what happened in the first 100 days.
I would say project setup and scrutinizing it, having a breakdown, probably spreadsheets, and depending on what it calls for, displays as far as any progress that's been made.
Okay, that's fair. Thank you.
Member Williams?
Okay, Jameson stole one of mine already.
That happens.
I still might ask in a different way for him though. What is your strategy on how to work with other people and organizations? Because
Open-minded, and make sure I listen to their needs and concerns and try and focus what I'm able to do around how I can best meet that within the boundaries.
Well, the reason I'm asking that question is because you're going to be different, dealing with different organizations in town, Chamber of Commerce, CRA Board, commissioners maybe, Rotary Club, whatever. So how would you strategize to bring those groups together so y'all can sit down and work together?
I'd probably have to do research and see what would tie them together, and then have it prepared to bring that up, how one would complement the other, and how each section or each committee is needed to fulfill a project.
Okay. Member Newcomb? Your second question?
Yes. My second question was, what do you see as the major contribution that the CRA manager offers to a town the size of High Springs? If we have a manager rather than just a board, what do you see as the major contribution?
High Springs is basically a historical community, so I think it's got a lot of room for growth. I think the manager would probably make sure that everything is getting done in accordance to how it would most benefit the community, and make sure that all the details are being paid attention to, and all the financial costs are being analyzed, and just that everything's being done that should be done within the project.
All righty. Thank you.
Member Gestrin?
Thank you. How are you going to report back to the board and maintain accountability?
Again, that would be preference of the board, but I do a lot of spreadsheets. I do a lot of slideshows. I do a lot of mapping, things like that. So again, depending on what the project is and what you were requesting, I pretty much do it in any format that was easy for, easiest for y'all.
Thank you.
What experience do you have in dealing with a board or boards, and how would you use, or rather ensure that that would be an effective relationship with the board?
I have not had experience as far as a city council board or in the public sector. Most of my experience been with corporations and commercial development boards, LLCs, and construction. Basically, I just think how I would say it. I outline my project very scrutiny. I make sure that I stay on all time frames, completing everything that's supposed to be done within that time frame. Of course, always referencing back to their specific demands or requirements, and researching, make sure that we're fitting all of that.
Thank you. Member Jameson?
The individual in here has got broad scope, so I'm curious as to your vision in regards to, is this position individualized to help businesses, or is it more a, for lack of a better word, global thing to bring the entire issue into it? Piecemeal or a full scope type of endeavor?
I think it's probably full scope is the ultimate result that would be wanted. The individual business owners would benefit along the way, but benefiting the community and outreaching would definitely benefit the county in general.
Thank you.
Member Williams?
What's your definition of economic development?
Economic development to me is creating opportunities within an economy or within a rural area that allow people to have the opportunity to begin and grow in business, as far as offering training and companies that allow for growth from the bottom up, things that might benefit an area specifically on their resources or their location, allowing jobs, definitely jobs for the community, and but maintaining what the community wants maintained, as far as like not having factories in a country setting and things like that.
Okay, I believe that's all our questions. Now, would you like to give us some information about yourself or any other information you'd like for us to hear?
Yeah, I went to school for international business and trade up in New Jersey, and I spent 8 years with an international luggage importer and distributor. Since I've been in Florida, I've been in real estate. I've done everything, mostly land sales, development, commercial development. I do a lot of research for developers, and I do a lot of spreadsheets. I do a lot of budget plans for people. I do a lot of cutback type of spreadsheets, as far as studying what they're doing and where they can save money. I do a lot of business plans and things like that. So that's basically what I've been doing. A lot of project development from the ground up, a lot of research, a lot of reaching out, a lot of creating contact lists, a lot of phone follow-up, a lot of putting hands together, and things like that.
Anything else you'd like to say? Okay.
Unless you have
All
any more questions.
I think that's it.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your applying and coming for the interview.
Thank you, ma'am.
I appreciate
Thank you.
Thank you.
it. You want this out?
Yeah, you can, doesn't matter. Okay, that really concludes our interviews for the number of applicants that we have. I'll wait till the fire engine goes by, police car. And as we talked about earlier, indicated earlier, if we by Monday, have your rankings to Jenny. Since we have 3 applicants, if you would rank them 3, 2, 1, 3 being the highest number. And then she'll add them up and let us know who the highest ranking is.
Okay.
And then we'll go forward from there. That makes sense?
So we're gonna list them in order, but the first one will get 3 points. The second one, I'm just saying, so the number one choice is at 3
You can
points.
put them any order you want, just make sure that whoever has, that you put your 1, 2, or 3 by the name.
That's the way you want us to rank them, number one, but then she'll get 3 points is all I'm saying. I
Yes,
know that's-
right.
That's,
Yeah, your
okay.
top candidate would have 3
3
points.
points, okay.
Okay. So I think that concludes, I think, everything that we had to do tonight.
Yep.
Anybody have anything else they want to say?
I have a question.
Yes, Ms. Gestrin.
Thank you. Who developed the executive director proposed job description or whatever?
It came before this board, and we looked over it several times.
Oh, I understand that. I just wondered who and how was it prepared? Who prepared the wording and everything?
It was actually pulled from, I believe it was Lake City had gone out and advertised for an executive director, and it was pulled off of that website, and I think we changed it a little bit, but a lot of it came from there.
I have a concern because I don't really see commissioners mentioned in this. It looks more like a transfer of power. I think our attorneys need to look at it as well, especially, I don't see Lake City having a community development corporation. Maybe they do a CDC, I'm not sure.
This was their community redevelopment agency
Okay.
advertisement.
Well, I'm just saying it looks like a transfer of power to me, away from the commission. And even though that was discussed in the last meeting as a possibility of responsibilities and the CRA being its own board, I just have a concern, and I would appreciate them looking at it.
Member Jameson.
I appreciate that. I think the one where I think that can be addressed is when you do the contract, is you would stipulate within the contract specifically who the CR director reports to.
Right.
While I understand the concern, I think those things within a contract, I think we can take care of that to make sure that the board is the person. So I think that would be extremely important when we talk to to make sure
attorney on that.
Ms. Gestrin's issues are addressed in the contract.
Actually, that doesn't satisfy it, because this is what was advertised. It's a legal document. This is what people responded to. This needs to be addressed. I'm concerned,
Well, I guess,
especially in light of what was said in the last meeting, which gave reference to letting the board be on its own, and really the jurisdiction would come under, it looks like, the chamber and or CDC as it's listed there out of the gate. I just want us to be cautious. We changed our liability insurance in August, and I think since then we've had several lawsuits filed, and I just am asking for some caution.
well, I'm looking at it, does say that at the top it says the person reports to the city manager / CRA board, and that is what this person would do. Actually, there's a CRA board because the contract will say that. In the CRA board, while it's currently configured, is the commission plus 2 people. So I'm not sure I quite understand where there's a transfer of power coming in.
Well, what I'm talking about is even you're talking about the CRA board, and there are some commissioners. In the last meeting, it was mentioned that maybe in the future there'll only be maybe 1 or 2 commissioners. This creates a transfer of power. If you go back to what was said, I'm just concerned that we don't jump the gun and we use this as a document to transfer power away from the elected official and the taxpayer.
The ordinance that sets up this specifies, you'd have to change the ordinance before that could happen.
I understand that. I'm just asking for legal review for this in light of what was said in the last meeting. That's all.
Well, I guess what I would suggest is you can email the board attorney and ask that question.
I'm putting it before the board and the public. I can do that. I've made it known.
We can take it and send it to the attorney with your concerns.
Somebody should. Yeah, thank you.
What to do is to make sure that the CRA director reports directly to the school.
Right.
The only interaction I would have is like with any other group, I would interact with it when they wanted advice and help, needed something, or we needed to do a joint project. When it comes to the funds, then I will sign off on the funds, not trying to control the individual, just to make it legal.
Well-
The actual control really comes from the committee.
Now, I think it's a good idea to have, we could do a lot more with our CRA, and we also could do an awful lot with economic development. There's been a lot of talk and very little done because of all of the other things we've been looking at. But in the last meeting, it was mentioned that perhaps you wouldn't even attend the CRA. It was even mentioned, I think, you as the chairperson mentioned perhaps in the future there wouldn't be any commissioners. We're members now.
Well, that was said, of course, obviously, we'd have to change the ordinance.
But that's all well and good. But we have advertised it. There's no mention of commission oversight, which is the way it's set up right now. And I understand you have to change the ordinance, but in light of all the lawsuits we've had, I just would hope that we would get this looked at, because this is a document that was advertised. And also, if you go back to not just the last meeting, but the one before that, there was mention of negotiations with county attorneys, bankers, and so forth as well by our city attorney. And that's more than a commissioner is allowed to do. So before we hire someone to do these things, I mean, that's a transfer of power to me. The city manager has always taken care of that. And in the last meeting, he also mentioned that he was not, he might not be involved. This was to help him. I'm just saying it's an area I think better have it reviewed than.
Well, I guess the question to the city attorney then could be, is there anything in the job description that would that would interfere with the city, this individual, I'm trying to figure out how to say this, that the commission would be bypassed by hiring this person, I guess is maybe what you're asking.
Well,
I'm trying to get a specific question to ask the city attorney.
At what was advertised, and this is like a job description, whether it comes from Lake City or wherever, there's no mention of the commission. And so it is with a change in the ordinance or without a change in the ordinance. It does, I mean, you've got city government, but that doesn't mean the commission. If you look at the charter, it's very specific. And it's a change in role, that's all. And because of what was discussed, let's say the last 2 CRA meetings, I think that needs to be reviewed by our attorney, that's all.
All right, and can you put that in if she's to review it, for what purpose? I'm trying to get a specific question to her so that she knows what she's looking for.
There is a transfer of power in this document as well as what was said in those 2 meetings.
Okay, so
away
that's
from
the question.
The elected official.
If there's a transfer of power?
Yep.
Okay, we'll ask her if she believes from this document and from what was said in the meetings, there's been somehow a transfer of power. Okay, we'll ask her that.
Err on the side of caution. It looks like it to me, and I'd rather something be reviewed now.
I don't have a problem. I just want to make sure we knew what we were asking her. All right, anything else?
For me.
All right. It is 6:30. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.